State of the Nation address in the best interest of ordinary South Africans? Is the DA using its alternative State of the Nation address to score political points? Why is the country still grappling with poverty, inequality and unemployment after 23 years of democracy? Is it constitutional to bail out failing state-owned companies with workers' pension money? What time is it? It's question time. Khotsong, Grula, Muraro, and welcome to the show. My name is Paul Tsedi. It is history that the State of the Nation address, initially scheduled for tonight, has been postponed by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Baleka Mbete. The annual address is delivered at a joint sitting of Parliament by the President of the Republic. Amongst others, it covers a wide-ranging political, economic and social matters and considers the general state of the country. While the politics around the postponement are being debated, unemployment, job losses and the widening poverty gap continues to plague the country. According to Stats S.A.'s labor force survey for the first quarter of last year, more than 58% of the youth cannot find employment. The situation for those lucky enough to be employed is not any better. Economists say food and transport top the list of items that is consumers spend their money on. Tonight on Question Time, or rather we're taking the stock of the alternative state of the nation. We are live and therefore you can call us and air your views. The number to dial is 089-110-4210. Internationally, +2789110-4210. Tweet us your comments at Question Time to form. And a reminder that you can also live stream us on our Facebook page, SABC News Online, and our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/SABC Digital News. My guest, Dennis George. He is the General Secretary of the Federation of Unions of South Africa, that's FEDUSA. And joining us from our Parliament studios, John Steenhuisen. He's the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance. Before we continue, let's take a look at what the ANC Treasurer General, Paul Mashatile, had to say when he was addressing investors at the mining endeavor in Cape Town.
The NWC basically said we need to recall the president so we can move on. That's why we have postponed Sona this week. I think for us, we want, once the Sona is presented, State of the Nation address, it must be clear what the message is for the future. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that the one who's leaving can't give the message for the future. Because I think for me, it's as simple as all that. The one who's leaving must do a farewell address. And I don't think you should do it at Sona. Sona is about, guys, here we are, this is where we're going. And I think Ramaphosa should do that.
Well, that's the Treasurer General of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, there talking to investors, and the clip has been making rounds since last night. So let me welcome my guests in studio. John, welcome from the dry city there. We appreciate you making time to join us on Question Time. Let's just recap on the alternative State of the Nation address by your party leader, Mmusi Maimane. What are the, if I may borrow from the EFF's cardinal pillars?
Well, I think, Paul, thank you very much, and it's great to be with you and the viewers. Thank you for the opportunity. I think that, our focus as a party, and certainly the focus of Mr. Maimane's address, is how do we get the 9 million South Africans who do not have the dignity of work in South Africa into work and getting our economy moving forward again. And so I think that it was very important for Mr. Maimane to lay out what we want to do, the type of changes we'd like to see, and how we can start making changes to start, getting our economy moving and getting South Africa back to work, but more importantly, getting South Africans back to work. And I think that was the message that got out there. And certainly, I think that in the coming post-Zuma era, I think we look forward to being able to once again be debating policies and ideas rather than personalities. And we certainly look forward to that challenge. And I think the alternative Sona was the first salvo that was opened in that particular battle for ideas. Mr. Maimani's been very outspoken before about the lost generation, those South Africans who have just been left behind. The majority of the 9 million unemployed are young South Africans. The statistic that you used earlier is correct, around being 58% of them being unemployed and with very little skills to offer the economy and the market in an environment where jobs are drying up on a regular basis. And so this is a crisis that should be the focus of Parliament. It should be the focus of those who are looking to make the laws of the country and policies and processes, and that should be our obsession. And so I think that we welcome the move away from personality politics into the politics of ideas and policies.
I mean, I've never had any State of the Nation address that doesn't talk about the things that you have raised. I mean, throughout, starting from Mandela, Mbeki, President Zuma, it has always been about job creation, economic growth, and, telling good news all the time. So how different is your State of the Nation from the one that, we probably could have heard today, or the one that was given last year?
Well, I think that there's a very big difference, and that Mr. Zuma has for the last 8 years been in government. As you're right, he's come every year and promised jobs. He's promised 1 million jobs at one stage. But the truth of the matter is he's never materialized because the policy and processes that Mr. Zuma has adopted over the course of his tenure as president have been disastrous. The flip-flopping on the economy, dismissing finance ministers under the cover of darkness, bizarre laws that he tables in Parliament and once debated and passed that remove investor confidence. These are all job-breaking, job-destroying actions rather than job-building actions. And so I think that is the important contrast that we need to put, that the policies and procedures and ideas and processes that we propose, we believe are workable and will start to create certainty again in the policy space in South Africa. And if we were in government, these are the type of policies that we believe would stimulate the economy, re-engineer and rework our entire education system so that we're producing school leavers who have got skills able to enter the marketplace and offer those skills, or to follow a vocational path to be able to gather even more skills when they leave that, to be able to be productive members of the economy. At the current rate, we're churning out school leavers who do not have the skills to be able to enter the job market immediately, to start small businesses, or to offer those skills to existing corporations.
From the labor movement, what is your State of the Nation?
Our State of the Nation is the lack of implementation, because we have already so many strategies, the National Development Plan, we had ASGISA, we had the Job Summit agreements and all these things. The problem is this, that government or political parties are not in a position to create jobs. They might be the people that put some policies in place, but the real actors is business. And business employ about 80% of the people in the workforce, and government employ about 20%, and those people that government employs, nurses, doctors, teachers, police officers, and so forth. And then you have local government that has to keep our cities going and so on. So the engine of our economy must be business. And you would remember that when Team South Africa were working so well together to turn the economy around, it was President Zuma that actually cancelled the international roadshow, where we went to convince investors that South Africa is the right destination. And we automatically saw, when Cyril Ramaphosa was elected as president of the ANC, the rands started to increase in capacity. So what he tells us that we need critical and ethical, responsible and responsive leadership. Leadership that can lead the country in the right direction, not looking at ourselves, but looking at those people that are outside of the economy And then we also want to look at the situation of working people. Now, South Africa is a unique economy, and we find the disposable income of our workers are very, very, very under pressure. And what we want to do as organized labor, because we've got money, I mean, from the government employee pension fund, we're looking at 1.9 trillion rand that we have. So we would say, look, let's build for every government worker. Make sure that he has a house. But when we talk about the interest rate, we can offer them roads that is 6%, 7%, because their monies are deducted through a stop order. Because if you give a person a house, if you give him a property and he pays the property off, he becomes the owner of this economy and he feels the pride in himself. And that will really help us, to put more disposable money in the economy. But on the other side, I think it's also important where business and labor have already agreed to employ and to give the young people, those that doesn't have the skills, to give them opportunity, and we call that program the YES program. We're looking to introduce that immediately. Then we've got 120 billion rand in the UIF fund, which is the unemployment fund. We have a surplus of, that's a lot of money. So we can use that money to incentivize for young people that is outside of the workplace, to give them opportunity, number one, to gain skills, and number two, to get a place in the workplace so that they can earn an income. So our kind of strategies and plans that we're working on with business and with government is some practical things that we can implement over the short term.
Okay, but you're saying there's a lot of money somewhere there, 1.9 trillion rand and whatever. But that money will dry up if you continue to take 5 billion rand to bail out Eskom.
Yeah. No, look, the money that is being granted in a short-term financial facility to Eskom, the money will be paid back on the 17th of February.
If it is not?
No. The banks and the commercial banks have given an undertaking that they're going to give Eskom 20 billion rand on the 17th. They will repay that 5 billion rand back to the PIC. So what we are actually saying, that South Africa doesn't have a problem with money.
You are aware that people don't have confidence in anything that has got to do with Eskom now, right?
Yeah, but Eskom has a new board. We've got full confidence in Jabu Mabasu, and we also have confidence in the Chief Executive Officer, even though we're acting, there's a new board. From our side, I mean, SAA also have a new board. We've campaigned as FEDUSA to have those leadership removed and to have them replaced with credible people with skills and with knowledge. So we believe we are moving forward.
Okay. Will, you are in Sandton. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm Paul and your guest. How are you?
You were well. Thanks for the call, Will.
Yeah, Paul, I hear your gentleman talking about jobs and everything else. What I'm worried of, it's not about creating of jobs. It's about utilizing the resources that are available. Okay. We have government funding institutions like IDC, your NEF, and everything else, which at the end of the day, they are giving priorities to politically connected people. Some of us, which we're supposed to be industrialists, I myself, which I can take 60 people on the go. I am still waiting almost a year later from the very same institutions and everything else. But all what we see is corruption and corruption. And I don't care whether it's ANC, whether it's FEDUSA, whether it's DA. Nobody is speaking about local people creating that kind of jobs within us as South Africans. It doesn't matter black or white, but they keep talking about investment from outside the country. How do you even do that? Because charity begins at home. So when those people leave, then what? Because everybody else is about investment and investment. But we do have institutions in our country that do absolutely nothing to promote the industrialists, whether it's black or white. But that is not happening. What are those two people, your guests, are saying about those challenges that we have?
Will, thanks very much. John, your response?
Yeah, I think that Will makes a very good point around political connection. And I just recall my time as a member of parliament in the KZN legislature and how the Atala Bank was so badly abused for political ends. And I think that we have that phenomenon in a lot of these state-owned interventions where the connected few, the insiders, are the beneficiaries. But I hear what Will says around foreign direct investment, and he's right, but it's not an either-or, it's an and. We've got to do everything we can to inject cash into our economy, to be able to stimulate SMMEs and startup businesses, and making micro financing available far more easily to young entrepreneurs, particularly those entrepreneurs who fall part of that 58% of youth unemployment. The truth of the matter, and I think that I agree with Mr. George completely when he says that it's not government's task, nor should it be, to create jobs. We've got to create an enabling environment. And what we need in South Africa is an SMME and small business revolution, because we've seen from international examples, from best practice, it's those SMMEs and exactly people like Will who, given the ability to unleash their talents and their ideas, are able to then absorb, more young people into employment positions. And so, I would just say to him that, yes, we must have foreign direct investment, but we must also do what he's talking about. It's not a mutually exclusive process. What we have to do in South Africa is grow the pie. At the moment, we've got a few, we're fighting over the scraps of, the little jobs that we still have left after the last 8 years of job-wrecking policies and processes. What we need to do is to dramatically grow the pie so more people can have access to opportunity. And a job is a ladder, to future advancement and to progress. And we've got to get South Africans, particularly the young South Africans, back to work.
Sina, you're in Tembisa. Welcome.
Welcome. How are you, Mpo?
I'm well, Sina.
You know what? I'm working government now.
Yes.
My heart is broken because I'm not qualifying a bond house. I'm not calling for an RDP,
yes.
But our money now has been taken to Eskom to rescue Eskom. So our children, they are not going to get that money if I'm going to pension, if they are 21. So this government of ours, they are not taking us anywhere. Because this ANC, everyone wants to be a president. There is no one who can go to, businesses, trade and industry, wherever. They don't divide themselves. They just want to be the president, all of them. And that one, it can't be.
Austina, thanks very much from Tembisa there. Well, this is a problem. And like I was saying, I've had this matter being addressed at one of the Sonas in the past, where through the tips for the president, there was a complaint from Pretoria where a resident was saying, I work for government. I'm the missing middle here. I don't qualify for a bond. Neither do I qualify for an RDP. And here is Fedusa. What are you doing to assist this type of people? It was said in a Sona. Let's talk Sona.
Yeah, I agree with 100% what the listener was saying. Why can't we take money from the Public Investment Corporation, which is anyway our money, okay, and make those loans available to them? We can even make the interest rates, lower because, we borrow to other people at low interest rates. And that is the way that we can help our people to practical things. The problem is this, when we raise these things, and we've been raising these things with government for some time, but government doesn't want to listen to us. But imagine how we would stimulate the economy if we can build for those missing people in the middle houses. How many jobs can we create in our country? How can we stimulate demand in the economy? And I must say, we had a meeting last week on Thursday with Deputy President in Ramaphosa, and he's quite open to listen to us and to make sure that we implement things. And those are the kinds of practical things that the listeners put on the table. And from producer side, and I think I can speak on behalf of Kusatu and of Nahtu, they support those things 100%.
Jacob, you are in Cosmo. Welcome.
Yes, big man, how are you?
I'm well, thanks for the call.
Yes, thanks, man. I've got 3 or 2 questions from this guy from DA.
Okay, go ahead.
My first question is, I want to know, because you talk about Zuma exchanging the ministers. My first question is, who deploy the ministers? is it a president? And when the president is employing the ministers, does he consult them to say, I'm employing these ministers, these ministers? Why should he go and ask them again that I'm firing them? That is my first question. Second
Did
question.
John say the president must consult the DA before he fires ministers?
No, I'm saying
No, not
does the
at
president
all. I mean,
need to go and ask them, or does the president have power to go and ask the DA to say, okay, Pravin Gordhan is getting out of the cabinet?
Okay.
Because they talk too much when Pravin Gordhan gets out of the cabinet. My second question is, why they don't talk about the things that Zuma has done the past 9 years, the good thing, they're just looking on the other side. When Mbeki was in power, DA was opposition until today. They still complaining. As their opposition, they will still complain. But why they don't talk about the good thing that Zuma has done for the country? They just talk about the bad thing about Zuma.
Jacob? Well, I mean, they are opposition. They don't really have an obligation to sing praises to the president, you know.
How can he answer me about the ministers? I could love to hear from him.
Okay, that's
Does
fine.
Zuma
I wasn't
ask them when he's employing the ministers that he go and ask them?
Okay.
And why should he go and ask them that I'm firing this minister?
Okay, Jacob. John, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think there's absolutely no incentive or requirement for the president to consult the Democratic Alliance when he fires ministers. But I think that if you look into both the cases and circumstances where the finance ministers were dismissed, it had terrible implications for the whole country. This was not just simply ANC people that got affected. We had billions wiped off the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
We had massive uncertainty. There were huge consequences and massive job losses that followed both of them. So what we do when something like this happens is you've got to hold the president accountable, because appointing a minister falls under what's called executive responsibility. Now, the executive authority in this country vests in the state president.
Okay.
And when he exercises that in a manner which we believe is outside of the interests of South Africans and has tremendous harm, as both the sacking of Minister Nene and of Minister Gordhan had on the South African economy and the effects on the South African people, I think it's our duty as elected members of parliament to hold him responsible and accountable and ask him for the reasons why he did that. I think that's our job as an opposition, and I think if we didn't, we'd be failing in our responsibility to the people who sent us to parliament.
Dimsani, very quickly, you are in Springs.
Yes, hi, I'm Paul, and your panel there. How are you?
We're well, thanks for the call.
Thank you, Paul. In fact, I've got one question for John Steenhuisen.
Yes, Steenhuisen.
Steenhuisen, yes.
Yes.
I just want to know when is Lindiwe Mazibuko coming back to the party? Because initially they said he went to school in London when he was fired from DA. So I just want to know, because he's back now in the country, when is he?
What do you suspect? Dumisani, what do you suspect?
I suspect he was. I suspect she was fired. This is what is going to happen to Dilil.
Okay.
Which is, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
John?
Paul, just to respond, I mean, that's fake news. Lindiwe Mazibuko was never fired from the Democratic Alliance, not from a single position, not from the party. At the end of the last parliament, she decided to go to take up an opportunity to study further at Harvard. She's now back in the country, and I'm not sure if she's a member of the DA, but she's certainly, welcome to, join the party and get back in. But that's her decision to make. She certainly was never fired and was never pushed out of any position. It was her own choice, out of her own free will, to go and further her studies at Harvard and to take up other opportunities.
Okay.
You can't tie people down in a political party and force them to stay on when they want to go on and do other things.
Okay. John, finally, when is the state of the nation, the real one?
Well, it depends who's delivering the real state of the nation. Look, I think that the longer this drags on, the more uncertainty it creates, and uncertainty is not a good environment, for South Africa to be in. We're already in terrible economic difficulties, and this uncertainty doesn't help. I think that I think if the ANC start pushing this past Sunday, we're going to start running into problems of a crisis. Okay. I think that there's no reason why, if the ANC can sort this out by Sunday, Tuesday, we can have a sitting of the National Assembly. We can elect the president. Parliament is the only institution that can elect a president of the Republic. And by Thursday, hopefully have a Sona being delivered by the new president. And that will then make sure that the Sona is delivered prior to the budget and that we make up for the time. But I think that the longer this drags on, the weaker it makes Mr. Ramaphosa look. And I think it puts Parliament and the country in a difficult situation.
Thanks very much, John. Thank you very much for your time as well. That was Question Time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Iba Khot.